Welcome to the Nathan Honus Fitness Lifestyle channel video, and on this week's video it's actually part 2 of helping you achieve sustainable results, and that is by understanding this particular principle. In fact, there's 3 principles within this system, so I'm going to go into that straight away. And the most important thing is you're going to understand the actions you need to take in each of these principles, and also an awareness how to sustain it long term. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that bell button, give it a like, and leave any comment relevant to this video. But let's go into the framework of this particular system, and then I'm going to dig deeper into one of these principles. Let's go. Right, so let's go into the focus triangle, which I went into part 1 last week, where I've done an overview, which literally I'm going to do again, and then I'm going to go deeper into one of the principles. But just to recap, the one what I really dug deep into last week was the first one, and that is shift, which tends to be at the beginning of when you start any of the health and fitness journey, and then later on you go into shred, and that is the first principle I went into. But fundamentally, it's all about calorie deficit and creating these new habits. So if you do want to check that one out and you haven't watched that video as yet, I'll leave the link right here. Let's go into the other 2, and then I'll go deeper into the second one. So the next one, which I'm going to dig deeper in a sec, is gain or gaintaining. So I'm going to go into that a little bit more. So it kind of states exactly what it is. It's about gaining a bit more muscle, a bit more tone. And this tends to be more of a long-term principle, what you really need to understand. But I'll go into that in a sec. And the next one's what I'm super excited to go deeper into next week, and that is stop or sustain. And that is all about when you're not completely focused. How do you stop yourself going backwards and sabotaging all your results? So I'll go into that a bit more next week. But let's go into the one that I'm digging deeper into, and that is gain and gaintaining. So let's start with gaining. What is that all about? Well, as you can imagine, you might have done shift for a while, and you might have done a bit of a shred, and you might have got that initial result of looking leaner and feeling really good. But now you're thinking a little bit more ahead, and you're thinking, I wouldn't mind a little bit more shape around my arms. It could be you might want a little bit either slimmer and have your abs poke through a bit more. For the lads, maybe. For the women, you might want to have a bigger butt. You know, all these things come into perspective when it comes to gaining muscle. And I know there's a stigma for women particularly that they think if they're going to lift weights, they're going to start looking more manly. But that simply isn't true. You need to build muscle in order to help your metabolism, to keep that higher, especially like myself, which is now above 40, it's actually been proven that lifting weights is a lot more sustainable than if you just went for doing cardio. So that's why a combination of lifting more in the gym, cardio is still important, but as you can imagine, if you've kept yourself lean, you just need to maintain that cardio and that fitness. And of course, if you enjoy doing that anyway, you can keep that all that going. I just want to dig deeper a bit more on the workouts when it comes to gaining and gaintaining. If you're someone who has just started out with going to the gym, I would always start you on a whole body approach. And what that means is each day it is different exercises, but it's based on all body parts. And I'd probably start you on a 3 session a week based on weights. Or if you're working from home, it'd be simple dumbbells with a combination of resistant bands, body weight. But I'd always start you on a whole body approach. Now, once you got used to that and you got some really good gains from that or tone, then with experience you have, I'll then probably put you into body parts. And what I mean by body parts is you'd have leg day, you'd have chest and tricep day, you'd have back and biceps day, shoulder and rear delts day. And then after that, once we will have a good framework of what's sort of building nicely and what needs to have more work, then we'll go more specific. So then after that, we might either go even more specific. So therefore, you might want a bit more gains in your glutes. So we may do 2 days of legs, one more specific for glutes, one an all-rounder. It might be that you want to build a bit more on your back. So we'll do a back day, and then we'll say add a chest back day. So we can make it more specific as we go along. But that's generally would be the format of someone just starting out. Obviously, if you're more experienced, we would have your history to go off to see where we're going to go towards right now. But yeah, that's just a general framework of the weight side of when you're gaining and gaintaining. But when it comes to the diet side of gaining muscle, you tend to need to have 350 to 500 calories as a surplus. Now, reason why I put gaining first is because you can do that where you can just eat what you like. You know, you can pretty much have a bit more sugars, have a bit more fats. Entertainment food can go up a lot more. You can actually go up as 25%. But you just got to understand that you are going to have to monitor the fat levels. Make sure you're not going to go too bulky, because as you can imagine, it'd be harder to shift. So if you really focus a bit more on the diet of obviously whatever you're going to do, if you can still track that, that's great. Where I have fell into when I've done this myself is my motivation when it comes to gaining muscle with tracking has slipped a bit in the past. So that's the only stigma what I find with myself, and when I tend to help clients do this, it's a bit too easy to let it slip, because you kind of go, well, I'm gaining muscle, so I don't mind a bit more fat, you know. But the trouble is, you really have got to monitor that. But yeah, the general concept, 350 to 500 calories per day, which can give you 3,500 to 5,000 calorie surplus by the end of the week. And that's generally what they say in order to gain muscle. And that's why I put it under the gaining category. Now, the one what I'm experimenting personally a bit more is gaintaining. And that is when I'm keeping the calories relatively low, and there's certain ways you can do that. Now, what I'm trying at the moment is I'm doing carb cycling. So what that means is, let's just say, for example, which I am at the moment, I'm operating on around about 2,800 calories a week, and I'm keeping the protein around about 30% of the intake. For me, that's around about 200 grams per day. But what I'm doing is, I'm doing a 3-day weight workout where I'm lifting really heavy. And for me personally, I'm doing a leg day, and I'm doing a compound day, and I'm doing an all-round day. That's what I'm doing right now. And on them, I'm particularly lifting my calories really high, well above 3,000 calories, which means on the other days, I'm using them as down feeds, which I think I can achieve being on maintenance but gaining muscle. And that's something I'm trying out. Now, you could gaintain by still having a calorie surplus, but you can still, as a week as a whole, just go off maybe 3,500 as opposed to the 5,000, which means it will keep the fat levels lower. And I'm quite a fan of this, because I think, me personally, it keeps me more motivated to track everything, as opposed to just completely going on gaining and thinking, well, I'm just going to eat what I like, as long as I'm lifting, then obviously that'd be good. Because you always find when you might have good intentions of tracking when you're gaining, but for me, I do find a slip. Well, I found with gaintaining, with that sort of, if you like, that competition with me to try to keep my fat low, has really helped. And on average for me at the moment, I'm on a calorie deficit by the end of the week of 2,000 calories. And that does mean my sort of gaining muscle has been a lot slower, but I don't mind that, especially with when I've done like a circumference of my max, I haven't got far to go. Now for you, you might be just starting out, so you might get a bit more sort of, if you like, newbie gains. So therefore you might want to go on a gain to start with, and down the line you might want to go more of a gaintaining once you get closer to your max. But you choose what's going to be motivating for you. So either way you can track, but like I said, if you're gaining, you're probably going for more 5,000 calorie surplus a week, maybe more. And if you're gaintaining, you're going more off a 3,500 surplus. Or, like I'm trying at the moment, a little bit of a calorie deficit. But where the art is that you have to make sure on the days you're lifting, you'll have the higher calories, and the days you're not, you'll drop the calories, which means overall in the week, you'll maintain. Again, if you've tried these things yourself, let me know in the comments what sort of type of stuff you tried when you've gained muscle, and what's kept your motivation to keep it going, and how have you stayed disciplined. Because like I said, for me, just gaining, I've lost my discipline a lot, and that's what's been really hard, not only for myself, but with my clients, they've kind of stuck with it, because the good thing is they've had me to be accountable. And the best times where I have been more disciplined is when I've had a coach to help me with gaining, and that has really helped. But generally, it's so much easier just to slip off the boil and go, oh well, I'll just have this a bit more, or that a bit more. But just remember, the more you live this cycle, the more the gaining and gaintaining becomes what you fall into most of the time. Because, you know, the shift bit is the long bit at the beginning stages, and that could be, like I said, on week 1. Generally it's 12 weeks, but it could be a lot longer. But once you've achieved that initial result, when you go back to shift, it might be something you'll go into for like 3 weeks after you go on holiday for a couple of weeks. Again, I'm going to cover the stop and sustain next week. So, you know, just know that this more you live sort of your health and fitness journey, the more this gain and gaintaining becomes the long-term area you want to fit with. And the good thing about that, you can still, well, you can in all of them to be fair, but you can have a bit more relaxed on your diet and going out and stuff like that. As long as you're really good at least guesstimating your tracking with your food and drink. Don't have to be bang on, but it has to be consistent for what you're tracking in there. So yeah, as usual, I haven't covered much about intake with water, but with this, you still need to keep your water on track. You need to stay hydrated, because obviously I don't have to go into how important it is to keep yourself hydrated, but I will leave a link here to watch my how to keep your water levels high and keep hydrated, to get a bit more educated of that. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want any more sort of questions based on this particular one with gaining and gaintaining, leave a comment. But just know that you can do a weight workout every day with gaintaining, or you could do minimal 3 days. For some people, they might be able to do less, but I believe you need minimum 3 days of lifting in order to really build some lean muscle. But yeah, thanks. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit that bell button, give it a like, and hopefully I'll see you next Wednesday, which is going to be the final part of this, and that is stop, sustain. Thank you. Speak to you soon.